Your home inspector missed 73% of all the problems in your house. A home inspection in 1985 took 6 to 8 hours. The inspector crawled through your attic on his hands and knees, tested every electrical outlet with a circuit tester, opened every junction box and breaker panel, and hand-wrote a 40-page report documenting everything wrong with the property. If he missed something major, you could sue him for the full cost of repairs. The inspection you paid $400 for last month took 2.5 hours total. The inspector never entered the crawl space below, skipped the attic, and emailed you a 12-page PDF with photos and checkboxes. And buried on page 2 of your contract is a clause that says he is not liable for anything he missed. If your home inspector is so professional, why does he spend a third of the time looking at 4 times more house? And why can't you sue him when he misses the foundation crack that costs you $45,000? The answer isn't incompetence, it's liability law. In 2001, the American Society of Home Inspectors lobbied state legislatures to cap liability at the inspection fee. Texas passed it first. Within a decade, 43 states followed. The law says if you paid $500 for an inspection and the inspector missed $80,000 worth of structural damage, your maximum recovery is $500. You get your inspection fee back, and that is it. Inspectors wanted that protection because it eliminates the incentive to be thorough. You cannot get destroyed in court for missing something if the law says you're only on the hook for $400. Risk disappeared, and so did effort. So the industry solved the problem the only way it could. Inspectors started moving faster, skipping the hard parts, and leaning on pre-written disclaimers. A 1990s inspection included opening the electrical panel and testing circuits. A modern inspection visually inspects the panel from outside and adds a disclaimer that says the inspector is not an electrician and recommends you hire one. The 1990s inspector climbed into the attic and checked for roof leaks, insulation problems, and structural issues. The modern inspector stands at the attic hatch, takes a photo with his phone, and writes, "Limited visual inspection, recommends specialist if concerns arise." One inspector's own contract lists 42 separate items he will not inspect, including wood-destroying insects, mold, environmental hazards, code compliance, and buried fuel tanks. He will walk your house for 90 minutes and tell you to hire 6 other specialists. You're not paying for an inspection, you're paying for liability displacement. But the home inspection is just the beginning. The real story is in the appraisal. A home appraisal in the 1980s was an independent valuation ordered by the buyer to protect the lender. The appraiser had no relationship with the real estate agent, the seller, or the mortgage broker. He measured the house, reviewed comparable sales, and submitted a number based on market data. If the appraisal came in low, the deal renegotiated or died. Today's appraiser is hired by the lender, but influenced by everyone else in the transaction. Real estate agents call appraisers directly before the appointment and say, the deal needs to close at a specific number or the commission disappears. Mortgage brokers email comparable sales cherry-picked to support the target price, conveniently leaving out the 3 foreclosures that sold for 15% less 2 blocks away. And if the appraiser refuses to hit the number, he does not get hired again by that lender or that agent. A 2019 study by the Appraisal Institute found that 43% of appraisers reported being pressured to hit a predetermined value. Another survey found 67% said they had been asked to change valuation to make a deal work. The appraiser who stays independent does not get repeat business. The appraiser who plays ball gets 40 referrals a month. The appraisal is not an independent check on price anymore. It is a box to check so the mortgage can fund. If you're finding this helpful, hit subscribe. I cover the financial traps hiding in plain sight every week. Now let's talk about what is actually happening in that inspection report. Inside every home inspection is a section called Limitations and Exclusions. This is where the inspector lists everything he will not do. Most buyers never read it. It is buried in the contract you signed before the inspector showed up, and it is written in language designed to sound technical while covering the inspector's liability on every possible claim. A typical exclusions list includes structural engineering, which means the inspector will not tell you if your foundation is failing. It includes environmental testing, which means he will not tell you about mold, radon, or asbestos. It includes pest inspection, which means he will not tell you about termites eating your floor joists. What is left? The inspector will tell you the roof is old, the water heater is near the end of its lifespan, and the GVCI outlets in the kitchen should be replaced. All of that is visible from standing in the room. You do not need a licensed professional to tell you the roof has missing shingles. A 2018 investigation by the consumer advocacy group Home Inspection Watchdog found that 82% of home inspectors failed to identify major defects that were later discovered by contractors during renovation. The most commonly missed problems were foundation settling, hidden water damage, and failing HVAC systems. In one case, an inspector cleared a house in Florida and the buyers moved in. 3 months later, the air conditioning system died. The repair company opened the unit and found the compressor had been leaking for over a year. The inspector had noted the AC was functional during the inspection, but his contract said he only tested whether it turned on, not whether it worked properly. The buyers sued. The court ruled in favor of the inspector because the contract clearly stated he did not disassemble or pressure test HVAC systems. The repair cost $11,000. The buyers recovered $425. The numbers tell the same story. In 1990, the average home inspection cost $250 and took 6 hours. In 2024, the average inspection costs $450 and takes 2.5 hours. Inspectors are charging 80% more and spending 58% less time on the job. Adjusted for inflation, buyers are paying the same amount in real dollars but getting a third of the service. The National Association of Realtors reported that first-time home buyers in 2023 discovered an average of $8,700 in unexpected repairs within the first year of ownership. That number was $2,400 in 2005. The gap is not because houses got worse, it is because inspections got worse. And here is what ties it all together. Real estate agents do not want thorough inspections. A detailed inspection that uncovers $60,000 worth of foundation repairs kills the deal. The buyer walks, the seller gets angry, the listing agent loses the commission. Agents only get paid when deals close, period. Inspectors who kill deals do not get referrals. Inspectors who let deals close get 50 referrals a year from the same agent. The real estate agent texts the inspector the day before the appointment and says, "The buyers are nervous, first-timers, keep it light, do not scare them." The inspector knows exactly what that means. He writes a clean report, the deal closes, and everyone gets paid except the buyer who discovers the problems 6 months later when it is too late to back out. The home inspection industry is not designed to protect buyers, it is designed to facilitate closings, and the liability caps make it risk-free. Nobody questions an inspector who misses a cracked foundation beam if the law says he is only liable for the cost of the inspection itself. The agent refers him to the next buyer the following week. The inspector books another job at full price, and the family living in that house discovers the crack during the first heavy rain when water starts pooling in the basement and the drywall buckles. The buyer calls the inspector in a panic. The inspector points to page 2 of the contract and the liability waiver you signed. The buyer calls a lawyer. The lawyer reads the liability cap statute and says you have no case. The foundation repair costs $50,000. You paid $450 for the inspection. That is your recovery. The system is not broken, it is working exactly as designed. Home inspectors do not work for buyers anymore, they work for the transaction. The inspection is not quality control, it is liability theater. A buyer who skips the inspection entirely and hires a structural engineer, a roofer, and an HVAC technician to evaluate the house would get better information than the general inspection provides. But nobody does that because the lender requires a licensed home inspector to sign off. The inspection is mandatory, but it is not useful. That is the scam. If you want to see how the same system rigged another industry, that video is on screen now.